Linda Morris checked her watch as she locked up the community center. It was almost 9 in the evening, later than she usually stayed. Her self-defense class had run overtime because her students had so many questions. Linda didn't mind. She loved teaching women how to protect themselves. At 34, with 10 years of experience as a military police officer before becoming a civilian instructor, Linda had plenty of knowledge to share. The October night was cool, but not cold. Linda zipped up her light jacket and adjusted the strap of her gym bag on her shoulder. The streets in this part of town were quiet at this hour. Most businesses had already closed, leaving only a few restaurants and bars open. Linda had walked this route hundreds of times in the 3 years she'd been teaching at the center. She knew every corner, every alley, and every shortcut. As Linda turned onto Maple Street, she noticed a dark blue sedan driving slowly past her. Something about it made her pause. The windows were tinted too dark to see inside, and the car had no front license plate. Linda continued walking, keeping her pace steady. A minute later, the same car passed by again, even slower this time. Linda's training kicked in immediately. She didn't panic, but her mind became sharper, more alert. She switched her gym bag from her left hand to her right, her dominant hand. With her left hand, she pulled out her phone and pretended to make a call. Instead, she opened her location, sharing app, and sent her real-time location to her roommate, Kate. "I'll be home in 20 minutes, Linda said into the phone, though no one was on the line. "I'm just leaving work now. If I'm not back by 9:30, call me, okay?" Linda's usual route home included a shortcut through an alley between 2 buildings. It saved her 5 minutes of walking. Tonight, she decided to skip the shortcut and stay on the main streets where there were more streetlights and possibly other people. 3 blocks away, Frank Davis sat behind the wheel of the blue sedan, watching Linda through his rearview mirror. Frank was 39, with a long record of petty crimes that had recently escalated to more violent offenses. In the passenger seat sat Doug Miller, a skinny man with nervous eyes. Pete Wilson, the largest of the 3, took up most of the backseat. "She's alone," Frank said, keeping his voice low. "No one else around." "She's got a gym bag," Pete said. "Might have some good stuff in there. Phone, wallet, maybe a laptop." She changed direction, Doug noticed, his fingers tapping against his knee. "She's not taking the alley," Frank frowned. "Does she know we're watching her?" "No way," Pete said with confidence. "We've been careful. Let's go around the block and come at her from the front." Frank nodded and made a right turn at the next corner. Their plan was simple. They had done this 5 times in the past month. Find a woman walking alone, approach her from different directions, take her belongings, and leave quickly. Sometimes they used a knife to scare their victims, but they hadn't needed to hurt anyone yet. Most people gave up their things without a fight. Linda kept walking, maintaining a steady pace that was neither too fast nor too slow. She didn't want to show fear, but she also didn't want to look like an easy target. The street ahead was dark where a streetlight had burned out. Linda crossed to the other side of the road, giving herself a better view of her surroundings. The blue sedan was nowhere in sight, but Linda didn't let her guard down. She remembered her own advice to her students. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Linda checked her phone. Kate had seen her location share and sent a quick text. "Everything okay?" Linda typed back with one thumb. "Being followed. Blue sedan. If no update in 15 minutes, call police." She pressed send and slipped the phone into her jacket pocket where she could reach it quickly. At the corner of Elm and 5th Street, Linda spotted the blue sedan again. It was parked half a block ahead, its headlights off, but the engine still running. Linda could see shapes of people inside, but not how many. She slowed her pace slightly, giving herself time to think. The driver's door opened and a man stepped out. He was tall and thin, wearing jeans and a dark hoodie. He looked in Linda's direction, then walked around the corner out of sight. A minute later, another man got out of the passenger side and walked in the opposite direction, disappearing behind a closed bakery. Linda immediately understood their strategy. They were positioning themselves to cut off her escape routes. The driver had likely gone around the block to come up behind her, while the passenger would approach from another angle. There was probably at least one more person still in the car. Instead of continuing forward or turning back, Linda walked to a small coffee shop that was still open. Through the window, she could see a barista cleaning up and two customers sitting at a table. Linda went inside, the bell above the door, announcing her arrival. "Hi there," the barista said with a tired smile. "We're closing in 10 minutes. "That's fine," Linda said, returning the smile. "I just need a quick coffee to go." While the barista prepared her drink, Linda texted Kate again. "In Moonbeam Coffee on 5th, blue sedan outside with at least 3 men. Call police now." Kate replied, almost instantly. "Calling 911, stay where you are." Linda paid for her coffee and sat at a table near the window. She could see the blue sedan still parked where she had last seen it. As she watched, a large man got out of the back seat and looked around. He was wearing a baseball cap pulled low over his face. The man stood beside the car for a moment, then walked toward the coffee shop. The bell rang as he entered. He was even bigger up close, at least 6'3" and heavy with broad shoulders. He glanced at Linda, then looked away quickly. He went to the counter and ordered a coffee. While the barista was busy, the man looked over his shoulder at Linda again. Linda met his gaze directly, her face calm but her eyes alert. The man seemed surprised by her steady look. He frowned and turned back to the counter. Linda's phone vibrated. Kate had sent another message. "Police on way, 5 minutes." The large man got his coffee and sat at a table on the opposite side of the shop. He kept glancing at Linda while pretending to check his phone. Linda sipped her coffee slowly, keeping her gym bag close. Outside, she saw the thin man in the hoodie return to the car. He looked annoyed as he leaned against the hood, checking up and down the street. Their plan was falling apart because Linda had gone into a public place. The barista began turning off some of the lights. "Sorry, folks, we're closing now." The large man stood up immediately. "Guess we're leaving," he said, looking directly at Linda this time. Linda stayed seated. "I'm waiting for my ride," she told the barista. "Is it okay if I wait just a few more minutes? My friend is almost here." The barista looked uncertain, but nodded. "Sure, but I need to lock up soon." The large man hesitated, then walked out. Linda watched through the window as he joined the thin man by the car. They appeared to be arguing. In the distance, Linda heard sirens. The men by the car heard them too. They quickly got back into the sedan. The engine started, and the car pulled away from the curb, driving off fast without turning on its headlights. 2 minutes later, a police car pulled up outside the coffee shop. Linda gathered her things and went out to meet them, relief washing over her. Her training and quick thinking had kept her safe tonight. What the men in the blue sedan didn't know was that they had picked the wrong woman to target. Linda Morris was no easy victim. She was a woman who taught others how to avoid becoming victims themselves. And tonight, she had practiced what she preached. The morning after her close call, Linda sat in the police station with Officer Sam Kelly. Sam was in his 40s with a kind face and serious eyes. He pushed a cup of coffee across his desk to Linda. "So you think these are the same guys who've been targeting women in the area?" Sam asked, looking at the notes he had taken. Linda nodded. "The blue sedan matches the description from the other reports, and their approach was exactly what you described in the community safety meeting last month." Sam sighed. "We've had 6 similar cases in 8 weeks. The victims all describe 3 men in a dark sedan. They surround the woman, take her things, and sometimes—" He paused. "Sometimes they do worse." "I know," Linda said quietly. She taught self-defense classes partly because of cases like these. "Did you find anything based on the partial plate number I gave you?" "We're checking, but it's not much to go on. 2 letters and 1 number could match hundreds of cars." Sam looked at Linda with concern. "You should be extra careful for a while. These guys saw you and they know you spotted them. They might remember you." Linda understood what Sam wasn't saying directly. The men might seek her out, either to rob her or to stop her from identifying them. "I'll be careful," she promised. I'm changing my routine and walking with a coworker for the next few weeks. After leaving the police station, Linda went to the community center. She had 2 classes to teach that day. The first was for older women who wanted to feel safer when out alone. The second was for college students. Both classes were fuller than usual. "I heard what happened to you last night," said Barb, one of the older women in Linda's first class. "My daughter works at that coffee shop." The police came back this morning asking questions. Linda hadn't planned to mention her experience, but she saw an opportunity for a real-life lesson. "Let's talk about awareness," she said to the class. "Last night I noticed a car passing me twice. What are some other warning signs we should watch for?" The class became very engaged, asking questions and sharing their own experiences. By the end of the session, everyone seemed more confident about recognizing danger signs early. Between her classes, Linda called her brother Greg. He was a detective in a neighboring district and always had good advice. "You did everything right?" Greg told her after she explained what had happened. "But Sam is correct. Be extra careful for the next few weeks. These guys sound organized. They've done this before and they'll do it again." "I'm already taking precautions," Linda assured him. "Different routes home, different times, and I'm never alone after dark now." Greg was quiet for a moment. "Maybe you should stay with me for a while." "I appreciate that, but I can't just hide," Linda said firmly. "Besides, I have Kate as a roommate, and we're being careful." After her second class ended, Linda left the community center with her coworker, Jack. He was the center's sports coordinator and had offered to walk with her to the bus stop. The October evening was darker than the night before, with clouds hiding the moon and stars. "I can drive you home if you want," Jack offered as they walked. Linda considered it but shook her head. "Thanks, but the bus is fine. It stops right near my apartment." She didn't want to completely change her life because of what had happened. That would mean the men had won in a way. Jack waited with her until the bus came. Linda found a seat near the front where the driver could see her. She watched out the window as the bus moved through the streets. Everything seemed normal. The bus stopped 2 blocks from Linda's apartment building. As she stepped off, she looked around carefully. The street was quiet. A few people walked dogs or hurried home from work, but there was no sign of a blue sedan. Linda walked quickly, keeping close to other people on the sidewalk. She reached her building without incident and used her key to enter the secure front door. The lobby was empty. Linda took the stairs instead of the elevator, another habit from her self-defense training. Stairwells could be dangerous, but they were safer than being trapped in an elevator if someone unwanted got in. Kate was waiting in their apartment with dinner ready. "Any sign of those guys?" she asked as Linda hung up her jacket. "No. Everything was normal today," Linda said. "The police are looking for the car, but they don't have much to go on." After dinner, Linda checked that all the windows were locked and the security bar was in place on the front door. She and Kate had lived together for 2 years and they had a good system for keeping their home safe. "I'm taking a different route to work tomorrow," Linda told Kate. "And I'll be home by 6. Kate nodded. "I'll be watching your location on the app again." The next morning, Linda left for work earlier than usual. The streets were busier with people heading to work and school. Linda felt safer with so many others around. She took a different bus and got off 3 blocks from the community center, walking the rest of the way. The day passed normally. Linda taught her morning class, had lunch with Jack and some other coworkers, and spent the afternoon updating the center's safety protocols. By 5 o'clock, she was ready to head home as planned. "I can still give you a ride," Jack offered again. This time Linda accepted. "Thanks, that would be great." As they walked to the parking lot behind the center, Linda noticed a dark car parked across the street. It wasn't the same blue sedan from before. This one was black or dark green, but something about it made her uneasy. "Jack," she said quietly, "do you see that car over there? The dark one with someone sitting in it?" Jack looked casually in that direction. "Yeah, I see it. Someone's definitely in the driver's seat." "Let's go back inside for a few minutes," Linda suggested. "I forgot something in my office." They turned and went back into the building. Linda went to the window that overlooked the street and watched the car. After about 5 minutes, a man got out. He was tall and thin, wearing jeans and a hoodie pulled up despite the mild weather. Linda recognized him immediately as one of the men from the blue sedan. "That's one of them," she told Jack, "the guy who got out of the driver's side that night." Jack frowned. "Are you sure?" "Positive. Same height, same build, same way of walking." Linda felt a chill. "They found me. They know where I work." "I'm calling the police," Jack said, pulling out his phone. The man outside looked at the community center, then checked his watch. He seemed to be waiting for something or someone. A minute later, a second man joined him. This one was bigger, with broad shoulders and a baseball cap. The same man who had followed Linda into the coffee shop. "There's 2 of them now," Linda said. Her mind was racing. How had they found her? Had they followed her yesterday without her noticing? Or had they simply watched the community center, knowing she worked there? Jack spoke quietly to the police, on the phone, describing the men in the car. "They're sending someone right away," he said after hanging up. "But it might be a few minutes." Linda watched as the 2 men crossed the street toward the community center. "They're coming in," she said. "We need to warn everyone still in the building." Jack hurried to the front desk where Patty, the evening receptionist, was working. Linda went to check the rooms where evening classes would be starting soon. There were already some people in the yoga studio and the art room. Linda and Jack quickly got everyone to move to the back of the building. Patty locked the front doors and joined them. They explained that there might be a security issue and the police were on their way. From the back window, Linda could see the 2 men trying the front doors of the center. When they found them locked, they looked annoyed. The bigger man pointed to the side entrance and they moved in that direction. "The side door," Linda said. "Is it locked?" "It should lock automatically," Patty said, but she didn't sound certain. Linda moved quickly through the building toward the side entrance. She reached it just as the door began to open. Without hesitating, Linda pushed her weight against the door, slamming it shut. She heard a grunt of pain from the other side. The door had hit one of the men. Linda turned the deadbolt lock and stepped back. The men outside began pounding on the door. "Police!" came a shout from the front of the building. "Open the door!" Relief washed over Linda. The police had arrived faster than expected. She heard running footsteps outside as the men fled. By the time Linda got back to the front and Patty unlocked the doors, 2 police officers were entering while a third chased the men. "They're heading for their car," Linda told the officers. "Dark green or black sedan parked across the street." One officer ran back outside with his radio calling for backup. The other stayed to take statements from Linda, Jack, and Patty. "We'll find them," the officer promised. "This time we have a better description of both the men and the car." Linda nodded, but she wasn't completely reassured. The men had found her once, they might try again. For the next 3 days, Linda didn't go to work. The police had advised her to stay home while they looked for the men who had come to the community center. They had not caught them that day. The men had driven away before the police could stop them. But an officer had managed to get the full license plate number of the dark green sedan. Linda's apartment felt like a cage, but she knew it was safer than being out where the men might find her again. Kate stayed with her most of the time, only leaving for a few hours each day to go to her job at the library. On the 3rd evening, Officer Sam Kelly called Linda with news. "We found the car," he said. "It was stolen last week from a mall parking lot. The thieves abandoned it in a warehouse district after your encounter at the community center." "Did you find any evidence inside?" Linda asked. "Some fingerprints that don't match the owner," Sam said. "We're running them through the system now, but there's something else you should know. We think we've identified one of the men." Linda sat up straighter. "Who is he?" "His name is Frank Lewis. He has a record for theft, assault, and 1 attempted kidnapping 5 years ago. He served 3 years and got out early for good behavior." "Do you know where he is now?" Sam paused. "Not yet. His last known address was his mother's house, but she hasn't seen him in months. We're looking for him and his known associates." After The call ended. Linda told Kate about the update. At least they have a name now, she said. That's progress. Kate nodded. But you still need to be careful. When are you going back to work? Tomorrow, Linda decided. I can't hide forever. Officer Kelly said they'll have a patrol car drive by the center regularly, and Jack has arranged for security to walk me to and from the bus stop. I don't like it, Kate said. Why not wait until they catch this Frank guy? That could take weeks, Linda pointed out. I can't put my life on hold that long. My students need me, and I need to work. The next morning, Linda prepared carefully for her return to the community center. She wore comfortable clothes and shoes she could run in if needed. She carried her phone in an easily accessible pocket and kept her keys in her hand as she left the apartment building. The security guard from the center, Bill, was waiting at the bus stop as planned. He was a retired police officer who worked part-time at the center. Morning, Linda, he greeted her. Ready to head in? Linda nodded. Thanks for meeting me, Bill. They walked to the center together, with Bill scanning the area constantly. The streets were busy with morning commuters, which made Linda feel safer. It would be harder for someone to approach her in a crowd. The day passed without incident. Linda's students were happy to see her back, though most had heard rumors about what had happened. Linda focused on teaching them how to stay aware of their surroundings and recognize potential threats. At the end of the day, Bill walked Linda to the bus stop again. The bus was crowded and Linda had to stand. She kept her back to the wall of the bus and watched the other passengers carefully. No one looked familiar or suspicious. When Linda got off at her stop, she was surprised to see her brother Greg waiting for her. What are you doing here? She asked as she hugged him. I heard about what happened, Greg said. I've been checking in with Sam Kelly. Thought I'd come by and walk you home. Linda was touched by her brother's concern. Any news about Frank Lewis? Greg shook his head. Not yet, but they've identified one of his associates based on witness descriptions and known connections. Guy named Pete Harris, another ex-con with a record similar to Lewis's. They walked together toward Linda's apartment building. The evening was cool and few people were out on the streets. I've been thinking, Greg said as they walked. These guys know where you work. They might know where you live too. Linda had considered this possibility. Kate and I have been extra careful. We've added a security camera at our door, and the building already has good locks. Maybe you should stay somewhere else for a while, Greg suggested, just until they catch these guys. Before Linda could answer, she noticed a man walking on the opposite side of the street. He was wearing a baseball cap pulled low and seemed to be keeping pace with them. Linda touched Greg's arm lightly. Don't look now, she said quietly. But I think that's one of them, the big guy in the cap. Greg didn't turn his head, but his body tensed. Are you sure? Pretty sure. Same build, same walk. Linda kept her voice calm, but her heart was beating faster. Let's turn here, Greg said, steering them down a side street that led away from Linda's apartment building. The man across the street also turned, no longer pretending to be walking his own way. He was definitely following them. Greg pulled out his phone. I'm calling for backup, he said, dialing quickly. The man following them must have realized what Greg was doing. He started walking faster, then jogging toward them. Run, Greg told Linda, pushing her ahead of him. Get to that store. On the corner, I'll hold him off. Linda hesitated. Greg, he's twice your size. I'm a cop, remember? Go. Greg turned to face the approaching man. Linda ran toward the corner store, but after a few steps she stopped and looked back. She couldn't leave her brother to face the man alone. Instead, she moved to a position where she could see what was happening but wasn't immediately visible. The man in the baseball cap was now standing a few feet from Greg. He was indeed the same big man Linda had seen before. Up close she could see his face better, square jaw, small eyes, a scar across one cheek. What do you want? Greg asked him loudly, his phone still at his ear. Not talking to you, the man growled. Where's the woman? Police are on their way, Greg said, ignoring the question. You should leave now. The man laughed. They won't get here in time. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a knife. Linda's training kicked in immediately. She looked around for something she could use as a weapon. There was a construction site nearby with some materials piled on the sidewalk. Linda grabbed a piece of pipe about 2 feet long. Greg was backing away from the man with the knife, keeping his distance while still staying between the attacker and the direction Linda had gone. "Last chance," Greg warned. "Put the knife down." Instead, the man lunged forward. Greg dodged the knife and struck the man's arm, but the attacker was strong. He swung again, and this time the knife caught Greg's jacket, slicing through the material. Linda moved quickly. She approached from behind the attacker, her footsteps silent on the pavement. When she was close enough, she swung the pipe at the back of the man's knees. The blow connected with a solid thud, and the man fell forward with a cry of pain. Greg immediately kicked the knife from the man's hand and pinned him to the ground. "Police officer," he shouted, though he was off duty and out of his jurisdiction. "Don't move." The man struggled, but Greg held him firmly. Linda picked up the knife carefully by its handle. "Linda, are you okay?" Greg asked, breathing hard from the effort of restraining the large man. "I'm fine," she assured him. "Are you hurt?" Greg shook his head. "Just my jacket." In the distance, they heard sirens approaching. The man on the ground stopped struggling and swore. "Your friends abandoned you," Linda told him. "Where are they?" The man glared at her but said nothing. 2 police cars arrived within minutes. Officers jumped out with their weapons drawn until they saw Greg's badge, which he managed to pull out while still holding the man down. "Detective Morris," he introduced himself to the officers. "This man attacked us with a knife. He's been following my sister." The officers handcuffed the man and helped him to his feet. One of them recognized him immediately. "Pete Harris," the officer said. "We've been looking for you." Pete said nothing as they put him in the back of a police car. A third police car arrived, and Officer Sam Kelly got out. "Linda, are you all right?" Sam asked as he approached. Linda nodded. "We're fine." Greg stopped him. "With help," Greg added, giving his sister a proud look. Linda took him down with a pipe to the knees. Sam looked impressed. "That's 1 down, 2 to go. Harris will probably tell us where to find the others to get a better deal." Linda watched as the police cars drove away with Pete Harris in the backseat of one of them. She felt relieved but not completely safe yet. There were still 2 more men out there who had targeted her. "You're definitely staying with me tonight," Greg said, leaving no room for argument. "We'll get some of your things from your apartment, and then we're going to my place." Linda didn't protest. After what had just happened, she knew it wasn't safe to stay at her own apartment. "I'll call Kate and let her know," she said, pulling out her phone. As they walked carefully toward Linda's building, Greg put his arm around his sister's shoulders. "You know, for someone those guys thought would be an easy target, you sure proved them wrong." Linda managed a small smile. "They picked the wrong woman to mess with." Linda stayed at Greg's apartment for 3 days. It was a small place, but it had 2 bedrooms and was in a secure building with cameras in the lobby. Greg lived alone, so there was plenty of room for Linda to stay comfortably. On the second day, Officer Sam Kelly came by with news about Pete Harris. "He's talking," Sam told them as they sat in Greg's living room, "trying to get a better deal for himself by giving up his friends." "What has he told you?" Greg asked. "Frank Lewis is the leader of their little group," Sam explained. "The third guy is Doug Wilson. They've been targeting women in the area for about 2 months now. Usually they just take purses and phones, but they've become more violent recently." Linda thought about the women in her self-defense classes who were worried about walking alone. "How many victims?" 8 that we know of," Sam said grimly. 2 women were hurt badly enough to need hospital treatment. "And they targeted Linda because," Greg asked. Sam looked uncomfortable. "According to Harris, they saw her teaching a self-defense class at the community center. Lewis thought it would be a challenge. Said they would show that all that self-defense training doesn't work in the real world." Linda felt cold anger rising inside her. "So they specifically chose me because of what I teach?" "Yes," Sam admitted. "Harris said Lewis became obsessed after you escaped them the first night. He was angry that you recognized the danger and got away. Do you know where Lewis and Wilson are now?" Greg asked. Sam shook his head. Harris claims he doesn't know where they're staying. But he did tell us about their plans. They were going to try again tonight. They knew Linda was staying here. Greg stood up quickly. How did they know that? They've been watching both her apartment and the community center, Sam said. They must have followed you here that night. Linda's phone rang. It was Kate. Linda, Kate said, her voice shaking. Someone tried to break into our apartment just now. The security alarm went off, and when I checked the camera, I saw 2 men running away. Linda put the phone on speaker so Greg and Sam could hear. Are you okay? Did they get in? I'm fine. They didn't get in. The police are here now. Kate paused. Linda, the police think it was the same men who've been following you. Sam immediately pulled out his own phone and stepped into the hallway to make a call. When he came back, his face was serious. Officers at the scene confirm it was likely Lewis and Wilson, he told them. The building's security camera caught images of 2 men matching their descriptions. They ran when the alarm went off, but now we know they're getting desperate. What's the plan? Greg asked. Linda can't hide forever, and now Kate isn't safe either. Sam thought for a moment. We're going to set a trap, he decided. But I need to clear it with my captain first. I'll call you back in an hour. After Sam left, Linda paced Greg's living room. I can't believe they targeted Kate just to get to me. These aren't rational people, Greg reminded her. They're criminals who feel challenged because you got away from them. Now their partner's in jail and they're angry. Linda stopped pacing. I'm tired of hiding and waiting for them to make the next move. There must be something we can do. Greg's phone rang. It was Sam, calling back much sooner than expected. My captain approved the plan, Sam said without preamble. We're going to let Lewis and Wilson think they know where Linda will be tomorrow, then we'll be waiting for them. How do we do that? Linda asked. We'll spread the word that you're going back to your apartment tomorrow to pick up more of your things, Sam explained. Kate will mention it to a neighbor who talks a lot. We know Lewis and Wilson have been watching the building and probably talking to people who live there. So I'll go to my apartment and you'll have officers waiting, Linda clarified. Yes, but not visibly, Sam said. We don't want to scare them off. We'll have plainclothes officers in the building and unmarked cars nearby. I don't like using Linda as bait, Greg objected. She won't be alone, Sam assured him. You'll be with her, and I'll be there too. We'll have at least 6 other officers positioned throughout the building. After more discussion, they agreed to the plan. Linda would go to her apartment at 10 the next morning. Officers would be in position by 9. Greg and Sam would accompany Linda, but they would try to appear casual, as if they weren't expecting trouble. That night, Linda had trouble sleeping. She kept thinking about Frank Lewis and Doug Wilson trying to break into her apartment, potentially hurting Kate. These men were dangerous and becoming more desperate. Tomorrow's plan had to work. In the morning, Linda dressed carefully and comfortable, clothes and sturdy shoes, things she could move quickly in if needed. Greg checked his service weapon twice before they left his apartment. Sam picked them up in an unmarked police car. Everything's in place, he told them. Officers are in position. Kate left the building an hour ago, so she's safe. When they arrived at Linda's apartment building, everything looked normal. People were coming and going, walking dogs or carrying groceries. There was no sign of Lewis or Wilson. They might be watching from a distance, Sam said quietly as they walked into the lobby. Act natural. They took the elevator to Linda's floor. The hallway was empty and quiet. Linda unlocked her apartment door, and they went inside. The apartment was exactly as Linda had left it 4 days ago. Now what? Linda asked as Sam checked the windows and Greg looked around the apartment. Now we wait, Sam said. They might make a move when they think we're comfortable and off guard. The hours passed slowly. Linda packed more clothes and some books to take back to Greg's place. They ate lunch in the kitchen, keeping their voices low. By mid-afternoon, there had been no sign of Lewis or Wilson. Maybe they're not coming, Linda suggested. Or maybe they saw something that made them suspicious, Greg added. Could be they spotted one of the plainclothes officers. Sam's radio crackled. He listened, then looked at them with new alertness. They've been spotted. Two men matching Lewis and Wilson's descriptions just entered the building through the service entrance. Greg immediately moved to position himself near the front door of the apartment. Sam stood by the window where he could see the street below. "Linda, go into the bedroom," Greg instructed. "Lock the door and stay there until we tell you it's safe." Linda started to protest but stopped when she saw the serious look on her brother's face. This wasn't the time to argue. She went into her bedroom and locked the door as instructed, but she didn't plan to hide passively. Linda looked around for something she could use to defend herself if necessary. From the living room, she heard a soft knock at the apartment door. Then Greg's voice. "Who is it?" No answer came, but the knock was repeated, louder this time. Linda heard Greg moving toward the door. She held her breath, listening intently. Then came a loud crash as someone slammed into the door from the outside. The door didn't break, but Linda heard wood splintering around the lock. Another crash, and this time Linda heard the door give way. There were shouts, a thud, and the sound of furniture being knocked over. "Police! Don't move!" Sam yelled. More crashes and shouts followed. Linda couldn't just hide in the bedroom while Greg and Sam faced danger. She grabbed a heavy metal flashlight from her nightstand and unlocked her bedroom door. The scene in the living room was chaotic. A thin man, must be Doug Wilson, was grappling with Greg near the broken front door. Sam was on the floor, struggling, with another man who had to be Frank Lewis. Neither of the police officers could reach their weapons. Linda didn't hesitate. She moved quickly behind Wilson, who was trying to punch Greg, and brought the flashlight down hard on Wilson's shoulder. He cried out in pain and let go of Greg, who immediately took advantage and pinned Wilson's arms. "Linda, get back!" Greg shouted, but it was too late. Lewis had seen her and managed to break free from Sam. He lunged toward Linda with hatred in his eyes. Linda stepped aside at the last moment, using Lewis's momentum against him. As he stumbled past her, Linda struck him across the back with the flashlight. Lewis fell forward but quickly regained his balance. He turned to face Linda, pulling a knife from his pocket, similar to the one Pete Harris had used. "You think you're so smart?" Lewis snarled, advancing on Linda. "Let's see how good your self-defense training really is." Instead of backing away, Linda stood her ground. She held the flashlight like a baton, her stance balanced and ready. Every lesson she had ever taught flashed through her mind. "Drop the knife," she said firmly, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Lewis laughed and lunged forward with the knife. Linda deflected his arm with the flashlight and delivered a sharp kick to his knee. Lewis stumbled but didn't fall. He slashed the knife toward her again. Linda heard sirens in the distance. Help was coming, but she needed to keep Lewis busy until then. She continued to dodge his attacks, looking for an opening. It came when Lewis overextended himself on a forward thrust. Linda stepped inside his reach and struck his wrist hard with the flashlight. The knife clattered to the floor. Before Lewis could react, Linda brought the flashlight down on his collarbone. There was a cracking sound and Lewis screamed in pain. "Police! Everyone down!" New voices filled the apartment as officers rushed in with weapons drawn. Within moments, both Lewis and Wilson were on the floor in handcuffs. Sam was getting to his feet, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead. Greg had a split lip, but was otherwise unharmed. 2 weeks after the arrest of Frank Lewis and Doug Wilson, Linda sat in a crowded courtroom. The preliminary hearing for all three men was about to begin. Pete Harris, Frank Lewis, and Doug Wilson were being charged with multiple crimes, including assault, attempted kidnapping, breaking and entering, and robbery. Linda was not alone. Greg sat beside her, along with Kate and Officer Sam Kelly. In the rows behind them were several women from Linda's self-defense classes who had come to show support. "Are you nervous?" Kate whispered, as they waited for the judge. Linda shook her head. "No, I'm just glad it's almost over." The door at the side of the courtroom opened and the three defendants were led in, wearing orange jumpsuits and handcuffs. Pete Harris and Doug Wilson kept their eyes down, but Frank Lewis looked directly at Linda with hatred. Linda met his gaze without flinching. The judge entered, and everyone stood. After the formal opening of the court, the prosecutor, a woman, named Susan Black, began to present the charges against the three men. These defendants targeted at least 8 women over a 2-month period, Susan explained to the judge. They escalated from simple theft to violent assaults. Their last victim, Linda Morris, was specifically chosen because she teaches self-defense. The defendants, particularly Mr. Lewis, wanted to prove that self-defense training was useless. The judge looked at the 3 men with clear disapproval. Instead, it seems Ms. Morris proved them wrong. Yes, Your Honor, Susan agreed. Ms. Morris used her training to protect herself and help capture all 3 defendants. The hearing continued with the prosecutor presenting evidence and testimony from police officers. Greg and Sam both testified about what had happened at Linda's apartment. Finally, it was Linda's turn to speak. As Linda walked to the witness stand, she felt strong and confident. She had prepared carefully for this moment, going over her statements with the prosecutor. She would tell the truth about everything that had happened. For almost an hour, Linda answered questions about her encounters with the 3 men. She described the first night when she noticed the blue sedan following her, the incident at the community center, the attack on Greg, and finally the confrontation in her apartment. Ms. Morris, Susan asked, why do you think you were able to escape and ultimately help capture these men when other victims could not? Linda thought carefully before answering. I noticed the warning signs early because of my training. I trusted my instincts when something felt wrong. And I had a support system, my brother, my roommate, Officer Kelly, who helped me stay safe until we could catch these men. When the defense attorney questioned Linda, he tried to suggest that she had somehow provoked the men or that she had used excessive force against them. Ms. Morris, you hit Mr. Lewis with a heavy flashlight, breaking his collarbone. Was that level of force really necessary? Linda remained calm. Mr. Lewis had broken into my home and was threatening me with a knife. I used the level of force needed to protect myself and others until police could take control of the situation. The judge intervened. The witness has already established that she was defending herself against an armed intruder. Please move on, counsel. By the end of the day, the judge had ruled that there was enough evidence for the case to proceed to trial. All 3 defendants would remain in jail until then. Outside the courthouse, several reporters were waiting. One of them approached Linda with a microphone. Ms. Morris, how does it feel to have captured the men who were terrorizing women in your neighborhood? Linda hadn't planned to speak to the press, but she saw an opportunity to share an important message. I'm relieved that these men can't hurt anyone else, she said, but I want to emphasize that what happened to me could happen to anyone. Being aware of your surroundings and knowing how to protect yourself is essential. Another reporter asked, would you say your self-defense training saved your life? Without question, Linda replied. I teach women to trust their instincts, to recognize danger signs early, and to have a plan. That's exactly what helped me. The story of Linda and the 3 men who targeted her appeared in the local newspaper the next day. The headline read, Self-Defense Instructor Captures Gang. That targeted women. The article included information about Linda's classes at the community center. The day after the news story appeared, Linda returned to work. She was surprised to find twice as many people signed up for her classes as usual. Many were women who had read about what happened to her. We want to learn what you know, one woman told her. You showed that self-defense really works. Over the next month, Linda's classes continued to grow. The community center added more sessions to accommodate all the new students. Linda developed special workshops for different groups: older women, college students, even teenagers. 6 weeks. After the courthouse hearing, Linda received a phone call from Susan Black, the prosecutor. I wanted to let you know that all 3 men have accepted plea deals, Susan told her. They'll serve between 8 and 12 years each, depending on their level of involvement and prior records. So there won't be a trial? Linda asked. No, Susan confirmed. Your testimony at the hearing was very compelling. The evidence against them was overwhelming, and they knew it. This way, they avoid the possibility of even longer sentences. Linda felt a wave of relief wash over her. There would be no trial, no need to face the men again or relive the frightening experiences in detail. That evening, Linda met Kate, Greg, and Sam for dinner to celebrate the news. They gathered at a small restaurant near the community center. To Linda, Greg said, raising his glass, "The woman who took down 3 criminals and made our neighborhood safer." Linda smiled but shook her head. "I didn't do it alone. Without all of you, things might have turned out very differently." "True," Sam agreed, "but you were the one they underestimated. They thought a woman walking alone would be an easy target. Their big mistake," Kate added with a grin. After dinner, Linda and Kate walked home together. Their apartment had been repaired, with a new, stronger front door and additional security features. Linda no longer felt afraid in her own home. As they walked, Linda noticed a young woman ahead of them looking nervously over her shoulder at a man who seemed to be following her. Without hesitation, Linda and Kate caught up to the woman. "Hi there," Linda said casually. "Would you like to walk with us?" The relief on the young woman's face was immediate. "Yes. Thank you," she said. The man behind them quickly changed direction and walked away. "I'm Linda and this is Kate." Linda introduced them as they continued walking. "I'm Amy," the young woman replied. "Thank you again. That guy was making me nervous." "You were right to be concerned," Linda told her. "Always trust your instincts about situations like that." "I try to be careful," Amy said, "but sometimes I'm not sure what to do." Linda reached into her bag and pulled out a business card for her self-defense classes. "If you're interested in learning more about personal safety, my first class is free." Amy took the card with interest. "I've been thinking about taking a class like this. Is it hard to learn?" "Not at all," Linda assured her. "The most important things are awareness and confidence. The physical techniques are just one part of staying safe." As they reached Amy's building and said goodbye, Linda felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever before. Her experience with Frank Lewis and his partners had been frightening, but it had also confirmed everything she taught her students. Awareness, preparation, and proper training could make all the difference when facing danger. The 3 men who had thought Linda would be an easy target were now in prison. They had learned the hard way that this woman was no fool. And now, Linda would continue to teach others how to protect themselves, one class at a time.